Most people think that arm training is just for aesthetics. Bigger biceps, bigger triceps, but what if I told you that arm training is one of the most underrated tools to improve shoulder health?
Before we even talk about the biceps and triceps, we need to get one thing straight. The shoulder only works if the ribs are positioned properly. So first rib cage, then shoulder blade, and then humerus, so the upper arm, exactly in this order. But why is this so important? If there is no connection between the rib cage and the scapula, the shoulder mechanics will be restricted, simply because the rib cage is the base for the shoulder. The shoulder is literally attached to the scapula, and the scapula sits on top of the rib cage. And imagine the rib cage being the rails and the scapula being the train that glides on it. If there is no congruence, so if there is no contact in between those two structures, the movement of the shoulder blade will be restricted and therefore of the upper arm, which can cause ouches at the shoulder. So we need to take this into account whenever we're going about shoulder rehab or shoulder prehab, that the rib cage is the base and everything else is just added on top of it. So if we want to really get rid of the shoulder issues, we should start at the lowest layer and then work our way up to those more superficial layers. When it comes to fixing shoulder pain, it's not enough to just look at the rib cage, the scapula, or the humerus individually. We need to look at those structures in a more holistic context. So we need to look at the bigger picture because those structures need to work in correlation with each other. And here is the key. Whenever we're straightening the elbow, whenever we're extending the elbow, the shoulder needs to internally rotate. And whenever we're bending the elbow, so whenever we're flexing the elbow, this is correlated with external rotation of the shoulder, right? And we can say that triceps exercises tend to work on internal rotation of the shoulder and biceps exercises tend to work on the external rotation component of the shoulder. We can actually train the entire arc of shoulder flexion, starting at 45 to 60 degrees behind the body, all the way up to 180 degrees of shoulder flexion by sequencing different arm exercises.
The first exercise that we're going to use is a cable triceps kickback with the elbow behind the torso, somewhere in between 0 to 45 degrees of shoulder extension. Don't want to drive the elbow too far backwards because then the shoulder blade will probably dump forward and we're going to round the shoulders, which kind of misses the whole point of this exercise. The second exercise that we're going to choose is a preacher curl. So a curl variation where the arm is in front of our torso, somewhere in between 0 to 60 degrees of shoulder flexion. For this range of motion, I like to use a preacher curl, especially a cable single arm preacher curl, because it comes with a slightly better resistance profile than a dumbbell preacher curl on an incline bench, but both exercises would work nicely. The next exercise that we're going to choose is a triceps over shoulder extension. Again, here the goal is to keep the shoulder in a more internally rotated position. As with the other triceps extension exercises, it drives internal rotation at the shoulder. And the last exercise that we're going to choose is a cable single arm high curl. So basically a curl variation where the elbow is higher than 120 degrees of shoulder flexion. And with this particular exercise, we're again training the shoulder in a more externally rotated position.
Now here's the thing most people will miss whenever they integrate those exercises into their training. As we move the arm through the full arc of shoulder flexion, certain parts of the rib cage need to expand. So that means in shoulder extension, we need anterior expansion. Between 0 to 60 degrees, we need posterior expansion. From 60 to 120 degrees, we need anterior expansion. And in the last part of range of motion, we need a posterior expansion again. What does that mean? Anterior expansion is nothing else than a proud chest, and posterior expansion is more likely a hunched upper back. But with both of these, we want to ensure that we're not tucking the sternum or overly extending the back, because that's a different strategy and not genuine ribcage movement. So keep that in mind whenever you're executing these exercises. And if you can't expand your ribcage in those areas, you're probably gone too far and you're working within ranges you're simply not ready yet.
So arm training isn't just for bigger arms. If we respect ribcage, scapula, and humerus sequencing, and understand the link between elbow and shoulder mechanics, then biceps curls and triceps extensions are some of the biggest tools to improve long-term shoulder health. If you want to train smarter but not harder and finally make some decent progress, then reach out and apply for my online coaching. The link is in the description down below. And if you haven't done yet, then please subscribe to my channel, link this video and share it with your friends so more people get to know me, and it would help me a ton because, as you know, I'm a small channel and I need all the help from you guys to grow this channel. And the bigger the channel gets, the better the videos will be. So that is a win-win for both sides, right? Thanks and see you in the next one. Alles klar.